Welcome back. The year 2013 may have come and gone, but the memories still linger. Channels Television's online community witnessed a massive growth where our members were treated to an array of exciting content. Now, across the board, over 500,000 new members were welcomed. Viewers spent 77,646,841 minutes. That's, if you try to clump it all together, 147 years, 230 days on our YouTube channel in the year under review. Our online correspondent Victor Matthias walks us through the top 10 2013 most viewed videos on our YouTube channel.
As an observer in Ghana's presidential election, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was at his dancing best as he celebrated Ghanaian electorates with his Gangnam-style dance steps. Though it topped the charts in 2012, it tops it from the bottom in 2013 with 81,101 views. At number 9 is the fracas that ensued in the House of Representatives during the visit of the chairman of the defunct New PDP. This video makes the list with 82,201 views. The video of River State lawmaker Evans BP, who was stopped by security agents while trying to break into the State House of Assembly and in the process called the wife of the president, Patience Jonathan, his Jesus Christ on earth, comes in at 8th position with 84,482 views. Viewed 93,266 times, the video of a teacher in Edo State who failed to read her 8th declaration affidavit comes in at 7th place. In 6th is the grueling revelation that a man killed his 4-month-old son for ritual in Kogi State. An Associated Airline plane carrying the corpse of former Ondo State Governor Olusegun Agagu crashed minutes after takeoff from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. This video starts the top 5 with 113,042 views. Coming in at number 4 is the video of self-proclaimed Omo Babaolo commending the efforts of fellow musician Wizkid. Viewers viewed the video 119,002 times. In 3rd position with 130,248 views is the beating of some lawmakers by their colleagues for allegedly trying to hold a session and impeach River State Assembly Speaker and later Governor Rotimi Amechi. Let me say the video of his evaluation of the political goings-on in the country, the famous political krinkum, or if you like, the political higgy-haga that has enveloped the politics of River State for a period of time now, has all the trappings of an odoriferous saga. Kum Gagatwan Gaga comes in at 2nd with 263,482 views. That is flash. No, I cannot categorically tell you one now. The one that we are going to make use of is going to remain known by my Oga at the top. This interview prompted a lot of jokes, songs, T-shirts, mugs, and videos. The famous Oga at the top became a mantra accepted and used in Europe, Africa, and the Americas. That's a wrap of 2013. Let's do it again this year. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channelsweb, and follow us on the social media addresses showing on the screen to keep yourself in the know with the news at your fingertips. Victor Matthias, reporting for Channels Television News.
We're still reviewing 2013, but this time on the international scene, and crisis in Africa seemed to dominate discussions from West to Central to Northern Africa. Peace became a most expensive commodity. So our review of 2013 tonight looks at Nigeria's role as leader on the continent in the midst of all of the crisis. If there ever was a time when Nigeria's leadership was needed on the continent, it was in 2013. There was conflict brewing nearly everywhere, and where there was no conflict, there was civil unrest, and African leaders seem to have given up the responsibility of reining in the dissidents and stabilizing their territories. However, at the start of the year, the crisis north of Mali gained momentum and was threatening to reach its capital and spill its borders. Nigeria, concerned about the gains of the Islamist insurgents threatening to break one of West Africa's most stable countries, intervened. Troops were sent to support the African Union, the United Nations force, who joined French troops already on ground, stemming the crisis. African leaders spent an extra day after their summit in January to discuss further raising funds to support troops in Mali. $50 billion was a target that day, and they realized more than that in pledges. Nigeria pledged $5 billion, a seemingly small amount, but quite understandable after President Goodluck Jonathan explained that Nigeria already had presence in Mali and was supporting the government whichever way it could. While Mali boiled, so did other parts of Africa. Leaders were overwhelmed with meetings after meetings and negotiations, sometimes heading nowhere. Fresh crises had broken out in the Democratic Republic of Congo and were still continuing. Same with the Central African Republic. Rebels, it seemed, were having a field day troubling governments in their countries. Not much was heard about Nigeria's mediatory efforts, but at least they were geared towards removing Nigerians from harm's way.
From here, we'll take them to the camp where they will bath, they will be given food and non-food items. And state emergency management agencies in the respective states have been contacted. They will be on ground tomorrow to start sorting them out. For taking them, they will be conveyed to their respective states in honor, respect, and dignity.
Nigeria sent envoys to South Sudan in the heat of recent fighting to help both sides sit at the negotiating table. One analyst believes the country has been a little too late on the scene of crisis on the continent.
The type of governance we have had in Africa for quite some time has been creating something like a time bomb, like we have in Southern Africa and Central African Republic now. The people are not in the center of governance. And as time goes on, you are going to have this type of eruption happening. And some people will hide under this type of problematic situation to foment trouble. And they will always have followers.
Perhaps Nigeria could not fully weigh in on issues because it was dealing with one of its own. Boko Haram attacks were showing up more often, and it took a while after the declaration of a state of emergency on 5 states before some calm was restored. Allies such as the United States and Great Britain offered to help the country to fight the insurgency. But the U.S. government decided it was time to try on a different approach. It announced it had blacklisted Boko Haram and Ansaru as foreign terror organizations. This was misread by Nigerians who thought it seemed the country was more likely being decimated. But the U.S. cleared the air, saying the move was important to help Nigeria root out violent extremism. They even suggested a different approach to the problem.
Fighting terrorism is very complex, and it requires more than just security tools. Security tools deal with the security threats, but there are also related threats to communities. The people in those areas where Boko Haram is operating are victims of Boko Haram, but sometimes in the process they become victims of the actions of the government to deal with Boko Haram. So we want to continue to have discussions with the Nigerian government, share with them the experiences that we have had in dealing with counterinsurgencies and the impact that that has on civilian populations so that the civilian populations can be protected.
But there were other aspects of Nigeria's foreign policy that did not receive big spotlight. President Goodluck Jonathan's trip to South Africa in May was one of them. A number of memoranda of understanding were signed, and the president emphasized there was no competition between the two countries. And then Nigeria's election into a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council. At the UN General Assembly in New York in September, the president had made a strong case for Nigeria, reading out a performance in peacekeeping and aid. Although the Gambia had been a contestant for the seat, Nigeria won unopposed. Well, I'm being joined now in the studio on the news at 10 by Dr. Rashid Akinyemi. He is a political science analyst, though, in the University of Lagos, but he is well versed in international issues. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Good evening.
Good evening. Well, Africa, of course, had a lot of crises. We started the year off with Mali, and then it just, catapulted from there. We're just going from one to the other to the other. Really, what role did we play in any of these crises, just for the clearance of it all?
You mean Nigeria?
Yes, Nigeria.
Well, Nigeria tried to play the role of a hegemon by trying to intervene, but we see that nothing serious came out of all these interventions.
Yeah, but we intervened in Mali, don't forget. And we were really strong on Mali, especially in the African Union. I mean, with the help of the African Union. Yeah. Don't forget the donors conference that raised over $50 billion for logistics as well as humanitarian aid for Mali and so on. And Nigeria said, I remember President Goodluck Jonathan there at that meeting saying that Nigeria had offered assistance to Mali even well before that conference held.
Yeah, you see, when Nigeria operates within the African Union, whatever Nigeria does goes down. But when Nigeria functions within ECOWAS, you see that it comes more in the highlight.
Why do you think that is? We perform better in ECOWAS than in the African Union. That's what you're saying, though.
Yes. Because I think it is time for us to realize that regional integration is actually an important aspect of a country that leads a region. And don't forget that West Africa is just a sub-region in Africa. So Nigeria will be more functioning in West Africa because it has a domineering influence here. So if it goes within the African Union, you find other contending powers within Africa, contending with Nigeria as such, and as such, those countries also, they will also like to bring more out what they have done. So I think Nigeria is better advised to keep on its role in West Africa, try to make things better, so that at least we will know that Nigeria could claim some sort of ownership of peace in West Africa.
Well, let's not forget also that it's also been a challenging year for Nigeria, especially with security and so on. I don't know what you think. Could that have probably helped to limit, our participation in peacekeeping efforts in, for example, the Central African Republic and the DRC?
You see, Nigeria started in the 60s saying that in Africa is the centerpiece of foreign policy, okay? But that has went off. And while this were winning off, other powers were getting up on the African continent, doing what Nigeria was supposed to be doing. So, because Nigeria also at home is not having a very good record, and this bad record at home is also reflected outside. So at the end of the day, Nigeria should try as much as possible to focus on the sub-region, and there it can also it will be useful to know, okay, if Nigeria actually has something to say, because if Nigeria says we have security problems at home and we have also in the sub-region, and it could not address the one at home, so how can it address the outside?
Well, I know after the United Nations conference in September, Nigeria was elected into the non-permanent seats for the UN Security Council. We're looking at 2014 now. I mean, really, how does that position help us? How does that help us to increase our influence on not just the continent now, but the rest of the world? You say we need to change our foreign policy.
Well, not only that position does not help us anywhere, because anybody can be on that seat. Okay, so it's not a big deal that Nigeria is in the UN and posting its chest. Other smaller countries have also been there, but the point is that if Nigeria has a better policy, better governance at home, okay, then it could also help, because your foreign policy depends on your national interest. And I've not seen Nigeria having a codified national interest, which focuses on, because foreign policy now brings home what you use for the domestic force. So we are not playing any major influence in the world politics at all. Looking at the shambles in Nigeria, corruption, all sorts of human rights violation. So I think Nigeria needs to put its home better. The leadership issue in Nigeria is a scandal. So at the end of the day, if you have a country that is corrupt on all indexes, you find that Nigeria is either the first in the worst country or the last in whatever. So this is not a country that you could boast your chest that you can make a foreign policy that will move the world. It can't.
But we're hoping that all of that changes in 2014. We have to be hopeful. I mean, we have only...
What is the hope? When you have already a carryover from 2013 and whatever is happening to 2014, that's how the year will go. You see, we need a very serious government, and we don't have one.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
You're welcome.
Well, still ahead, Mikel Obi scores as Chelsea book a place in the fourth round of the FA Cup. That's in sports news. Do join us again.